Jodi Cataldo. I'm the Director of Laity and Leadership at the General Board of Discipleship. And it's a pleasure to be with you today, together with Reverend Myron Wingfield on my right here, Associate General Secretary of the General Board of Higher Education and Ministry, and Reverend Kevin Kloster, who's the District Superintendent in the Dakotas Conference. And we're going to be talking about an exciting avenue of ministry for the laity of the United Methodist Church, and that's certified lay ministry. So thank you all for joining us. But before we get started, let us pray. We give you thanks, O God, for the gifts you have provided us with to join you in your mission of making disciples for the transformation of the world. We have accepted the call to lead and now affirm our commitment to offer hope through the ministries of our districts and our congregations. We will seek to prepare ourselves as spiritual leaders by practicing the disciplines of the faith as we guide others towards faithful discipleship. Give each of us full awareness of your presence as together we seek to inform and to form, to lead and to follow, to strengthen and to be strengthened. We give you praise and thanksgiving for all that we are and for all that we will be through your guidance. Amen. Well, because the United Methodist Church is a connectional church, these leadership training webinars from Discipleship Ministries and the General Board of Higher Education and Ministry are provided for you through your World Service Giving. The goals for today's webinar are that a district superintendent will know, number one, what a certified lay minister is, what a role a certified lay minister plays, and how a certified lay minister helps a district superintendent be more effective in his or her district's ministry. The webinar will focus on the features and benefits ACLM brings to the DS. Lay ministry is not a new concept. 1 Peter 2:9 tells us, "But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people who are God's own possession. You have become this people so that you may speak of the wonderful acts of the one who called you out of darkness into his amazing light." This scripture passage affirms that we are all members of this royal priesthood, called and gifted to be participants in God's mission to the world, both locally and globally. The Certified Lay Ministry program aligns with this context for ministry by equipping and empowering laity to be in partnership with clergy as we seek to accomplish God's mission, the Missio Dei, which is for us to make disciples of Jesus Christ. United Methodist Church has historically, and still yet today, recognized that laypersons as well as ordained persons are gifted and called by God to lead the church. In fact, our Book of Discipline says that the servant leadership of these persons is essential to the mission and ministry of congregations, and you're going to find that in paragraph 133. As we look at what makes a congregation vibrant and fruitful, the call to action research done by Towers Watson for our denomination has shown us several things. One, that highly effective lay leadership is strongly associated with those who demonstrate vital personal faith, which includes regular disciplines of prayer and Bible study, regular attendance at weekly worship, proportional giving, participation in mission opportunities, and personal faith sharing. Two, that the effectiveness of lay leadership has a strong impact on vitality. Thirdly, that three factors drive the effectiveness of lay leadership. One, leaders demonstrate vital personal faith. Leaders rotate. More attendees serve in positions of lay leadership. Fourthly, that a church needs to reach a critical mass equal to 25 to 50% of attendees who have served as leaders to create effective lay leadership and drive vitality. And five, that pastors who are rated as effective at developing, coaching, and mentoring lay leadership are more likely to have high vital churches. What this tells us is that the ministry of the laity is key to church vitality and the fulfillment of the mission of making disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. The category of certified lay minister came out of the 2004 General Conference and was added to the Book of Discipline at that time. So responsibility for development was assigned to Discipleship Ministries for equipping and General Board of Higher Education and Ministry for credentialing. Paragraph 271.1 of the 2012 Book of Discipline tells us that the certified lay minister is to preach the word, provide a care ministry to the congregation, assist in program leadership, and be a witness in the community for the growth, missional, and connectional thrust of the United Methodist Church as part of a ministry team with the supervision and support of a clergy person. The reasons for CLM are not only theologically sound, but are based on a realistic need for ministry that cannot possibly be met by clergy alone. Paragraph 205.4 of our Book of Discipline, in the definition of a pastoral charge, opens up the possibility for pastoral ministry by the laity. This paragraph tells us when a pastoral charge is not able to be served by an ordained or licensed minister, the bishop, upon recommendation of the cabinet, may assign a qualified and trained layperson, lay minister, or lay missioner to do the work of ministry in that charge. The layperson is accountable to the district superintendent or another licensed, ordained person or minister appointed to oversee the charge, who will make provision for sacramental ministry and provide guidance and mentoring to the layperson assigned. The layperson assigned is also accountable to the policies and procedures of the annual conference where assigned. At this time, we're going to take a poll, and Jason's going to bring that up for you, and it has a few questions on it, and if you would take a moment and to complete that poll, and we'll let you know how that turns out. You should see that on the right side of your screen.
And Jodi, let me just chime in here. I have opened up the poll. You'll see that panel pop up there on the screen. Just take a moment, choose the answer that most accurately reflects where you're coming from. Once you've had the opportunity to do that, click on the Submit button. Jodi, I'm starting to see the responses come in little by little. I know we have folks from all over the country that have signed up for this webinar, so anxious to see who we've got on the line with us here via the polling results.
In the last couple of years, the GBHGM office has sponsored several webinars for new DSs. This is one of the first ones we've put out for new and active DSs, or newly appointed and active DSs. So we're excited to see such a wonderful response, and we look forward to doing more of these so that everybody on the cabinet's learning along with the new DSs.
And feel free to share this webinar also with your directors of connectional ministry, because it's a very vital piece that they'll want to be informed about as well.
All right, looks like most of you had the opportunity to complete the poll. About 30 seconds or so left before I close the poll. Don't forget to click on that Submit button. That'll give me the green light to let me know you've had the opportunity to complete the poll.
While you're finishing that up, just a word about how this webinar will be posted. We'll take the final recording and do some editing, make it a little smoother, and then post it on the UMC Cyber Campus website, which is also attached to YouTube, and then send out a link to all the same mailing list that we sent the invitation to this to. So you'll be getting that soon.
And it should also be available on the Discipleship Ministries website under archived webinars after a couple days.
All right, the poll is closed, and I'm going to put the results on the screen, and you should see those results now.
We have mostly district superintendents. We have looks like a few lay ministers, certified lay ministers that are with us. We have a looks like a bishop, and some other forms of ministry. Excellent. And on the second question, I can't see the whole question, Jason.
We use CLMs in my district too, and then the first item is preach, and that seems to be the biggest response, along with serve as part of a ministry team, I think is how F reads out.
Yep, the overwhelming majority is into preach, or serve as an interim minister, and serve as part of a ministry team. And on the second question, more than half, overwhelming majority, indicated that they currently are using CLMs in their district.
Excellent.
So thank you all very much for that. And Jodi, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Jason. So how does a CLM differ from other categories of ministry? Well, a CLM is a unique, recognized lay servant in the United Methodist Church. A CLM is intended for the missional leadership of smaller churches and to expand ministry in other churches as part of a team ministry under the supervision of a clergy person. CLMs are part of the historic continuation of lay leadership in our church who resemble earlier exhorters, class leaders, lay preachers, and missioners. Certified lay ministry really is a tent-making type of ministry. CLMs are under assignment as part of a ministry team by the district superintendent. This is important. CLMs are to be part of a ministry team, whether they are assigned to a small church or if they are on staff in another church or ministry setting. CLMs are to complete a training program which is very similar to that of licensing school, yet specific to the call and ministry of a layperson. CLMs are in supervised ministry through their clergy supervisor, their mutual ministry team, and through their district committee on ordained ministry. CLMs have a system of support through the mutual ministry team and through their mentor. CLMs also have a system of accountability. They are accountable to the district superintendent who oversees the district, to the local church for ministry review, to the mutual ministry team for their covenant, to the district committee on ordained ministry, and are accountable to the annual conference through appropriate background checks and or psychological assessment. You can see from this table the comparison between lay supply, lay speakers, lay ministers, and licensed local pastors. Very little is needed or required for a district superintendent to have a lay supply person appointed. One reason for the why of CLMs is the connection. District superintendents assign CLMs, and through that assignment, the connection is strengthened. CLM is a viable option biblically, theologically, traditionally, and organizationally for ministry as practiced in the United Methodist Connection. A general church standard was also needed to provide for consistency throughout the connection. Another reason for the why of CLMs are small churches. All congregations thrive when they have a minister who's prepared, sustainable, effective in context, and accessible. Each small church can have a CLM, or pastoral leader, person to do the day-to-day work of the ministry, even those on circuits and parishes sharing an appointed leader. CLMs can provide regular, not occasional worship, pastoral care, etc., and lay speakers are occasional pulpit supply, and lay supply pastors, if I didn't say that correctly, lay supply pastors are temporary. A CLM is part of a ministry team and can be used in new church development or restarts. A CLM can also serve in visitation and care ministry as a small group leader, in preaching ministries, in new faith communities that are not standalone parishes, house churches, ethnic fellowships, in ethnic ministries, and as a pastoral associate in a larger church. A third reason for the why of CLMs would be for ethnic faith development or community development. CLMs can be indigenous pastors from the ethnic group they are serving. CLMs are affordable, they don't receive clergy compensation, and can also be bivocational, particularly for areas that do not have the people or material resources to even provide for a part-time local pastor. It's also a matter of stewardship of gifts and finances. CLMs are also trained close to their area of service, thereby eliminating the need to send people away for training. Integral to the CLM program is a system of training, support, supervision, and accountability. This system provides assurance for the district superintendent that the CLM has significant training similar to licensing school, that they are being supervised by a clergy person, that they do have a system of support in place, and that they have fulfilled the requirements of the annual conference around background checks and psychological assessment. In addition, they need to come before the district committee on ordained ministry every 2 years for interview and recommendation for recertification. This system serves to reduce the concerns of the district superintendent in utilizing a CLM. We have very frustrated CLMs when a district superintendent does not use them in some type of assignment. They have gone through a lot of steps to obtain the certification, and they often share something similar to, "I'm trained, and I sit on the bench because coach won't put me in." So to further assure that the district superintendent who assigns the CLM, we have developed specializations in several areas of ministry. This means that the CLM with a specialization has completed even further educational and training requirements to be certified in that specialization. Just recently, Discipleship Ministries has formed a partnership between the CLM program and the Lay Missioner program from the National Plan for Hispanic and Latino Ministries. This partnership is reflected in the proposed 2016 General Conference legislation revising the paragraphs on CLM and Lay Missioner. As we move forward, the Lay Missioner will follow the same process as the CLM with corresponding educational modules in the Spanish language provided by the National Plan for Hispanic and Latino Ministries. This move will also provide contextual training in the Spanish language for those CLMs not under the umbrella of the National Plan. Another partnership that has been launched is with Path One and New Church Starts. A CLM will now have the opportunity to specialize as a lay missionary church planter by completing the CLM process and taking additional training being offered by Path One New Church Starts. When that training is completed, the CLM could be certified as a CLM with a specialization as a lay missionary church planter. A third partnership that has been launched is with Global Ministries Global Health Unit in cooperation with the Church Health Center. This partnership is a new track of ministry for laypersons. Now, certified lay ministers can specialize as a United Methodist parish nurse. General Board of Higher Education and Ministry has also launched a similar track simultaneously for specialized ministry as a deacon. Although the news release just recently came out, we're already inundated with inquiries from nurses interested in pursuing this track of ministry. The area of specialization opens the door to so many opportunities for ministry. Besides specializations as a lay missioner, lay missionary church planter, and parish nurse, we are also looking at specializations in congregational care ministry, small group ministry, blessings ministry, and others that might be relevant to the role of the CLM. So what are some other areas of ministry which you think a layperson could engage in to further the mission and ministry of your district? And if you would mind using the Q&A panel, I think Jason can give you some more instructions on that. And the question again is, what are some other areas of ministry which you think a layperson could engage in to further the mission and ministry of your district?
All right, thank you, Jodi. Folks, you can find that Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Just look for the question mark icon. That will open up the Q&A panel. It's the best way to send us your questions during the webinar, and we encourage you to do so. All right, Jodi, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay, do we have anything coming through with the Q&A?
Yes, we have supporting rural faith communities.
Supporting rural faith.
Rural faith communities, okay.
Other folks that are saying small communities. In community ministries, partnerships with local schools.
Excellent.
Those are the ones that I see so far.
Okay. Well, you can continue to add some information, and we can come back to that a little bit later, but we'll move on then with the rest of our webinar here. So what makes the CLM program so attractive as a launching board for specialized ministry of the laity is that a system is in place to be utilized by every annual conference. This system is crucial to the success of certified lay ministry. It's a system of training, supervision, support, and accountability. And without these four major components to the formation of certified lay ministers, really the program would fail. These are also the benefits of the certified lay minister program versus lay supply pastors, who do not usually have a structured program of training, supervision, support, and accountability. Imagine if all lay supply pastors were given the opportunity to have such a system to help them in their ministry. Some annual conferences have no educational training requirements for lay supply. What if they did? Another major component to the formation of certified lay ministers is that of supervision. CLMs are accountable to the district superintendent and serve as part of a ministry team with a supervising clergy person. This might resemble a circuit ministry where not only does the clergy person supervise, but he or she will make sure that the sacraments of the church are provided for. One hugely significant party who plays a part in the overall CLM process is the district superintendent. So I would like to invite now Myron Wingfield to share with us about the responsibilities of the DS as it relates to the CLM. Okay, Myron?
Thank you, Jodi. And yes, that's why you're here today, because you are so critically important to the proper oversight and deployment of this category of ministry, the certified lay ministry. And first thing we'll start with is the information from the from the Book of Discipline, which indicates that the district superintendent works with the bishop and the rest of the cabinet to assign certified lay ministries to their respective roles. The superintendent's key identity and role, as most of you know by now, as of the 2012 Book of Discipline, is to be the chief missional strategist of the district. And thereby you have the responsibility to determine how best to deploy all the ministry professionals and trained ministers in your district, including CLMs, as a part of a missional strategy on your district. So CLMs can help the DS accomplish the mission of the church in creative ways, as you've seen from Jodi's earlier outline of the specialized ministries that are emerging as opportunities to deploy this. And one of the things that I know we talk about a lot in our offices are the ways that this is used to accomplish the National Hispanic Plan. It's been in place for some time, and this is a real complement to that. To review just a bit, the district superintendent will, 1, determine a congregation's readiness for this form of ministry using a congregational assessment, vision statement, church reports, church vitality indicators, and other tools. Secondly, consult with congregation and clarify the role of the CLM, how that will work in this particular context, whatever particular context you're addressing. Third, assign a CLM and a supervising clergy. And fourth, provide for guidance and mentoring of the whole team. It's critically important to remember that the district superintendent is also to make provision for sacramental ministry and to provide regular guidance and mentoring to the layperson assigned. Now that's a quotation from paragraph 205 of the discipline. More on that in a little bit. Oh yeah, slide, thank you. Yeah, slide, mouse. Sorry, it's slow here on this table. There we go. This is really live. Although the CLM is a layperson, because of the credentialing process, the District Committee on Ordained Ministry also plays a critically important part in this whole system. The district committees are to interview the CLM to discuss and discern calling and gifts for ministry, and they're responsible for recommending for certification and recertification, understanding that this is not a traditional candidate for ministry process. And the Board of Ordained Ministry for the conference is to provide a list of persons, is to be provided with a list of persons who have been certified as lay ministers for reporting in the business of the annual conference, the formal BACs that are reported at each annual conference. So, in a nutshell, the district superintendent and the District Committee on Ordained Ministry together have a role in examining, recommending for certification, and reporting when it comes to CLMs. The most significant group necessary for the proper and effective and accountable deployment of CLMs is the mutual ministry team. The mutual ministry team could and should consist of the following persons. Of course, the CLM mentor. That person is either the DS or designated by the DS. A lay leader, lay member to annual conference, or lay servant. District superintendent or designated person. And 3 to 5 persons from the local church. And this could be staff parish relations committee or a mix of staff parish and other key lay leaders. Together, these people form the necessary support group for the CLM to be effective in ministry. And they are partners in this ministry and should understand their role as such. The mutual ministry team will accompany the CLM on this journey by reviewing their learning, either by module review or reviewing course descriptions and goals from other venues. They will provide input to the CLM mentor and the CLM on the progress they see and provide feedback on areas that may need further development. This team is able to provide real-time feedback and input on effectiveness since they are a part of the congregation, other than the DS and possibly the mentor. And I want to pause there and just to elaborate on that a bit more. I suspect that most of you district superintendents, by virtue of your work in this role already, understand how accountability and oversight works, and it's often difficult for staff parish relations committees, other lay people who are working with leadership in the congregation, to be direct while still being constructive and helpful about areas that need strengthening or areas of concern. And this is where you and your training, your particular gifts and skill set that probably the reason you were asked to be a district superintendent come into play, that you can help them really to maintain a helpful accountability that's really watching over the CLM and love in a way that holds them accountable to really growing and learning and living into the role they've been assigned to. The mutual ministry team develops the ministry covenant together with the CLM in order to assure that there is a clear understanding of the expectations of the CLM and other members of the mutual ministry team. And I actually encourage every DS to do this with every pastoral appointment, but certainly with CLMs. And by this, I mean to establish a ministry covenant that lays out really where you want this ministry to be going and how you expect them to get there. The content of the ministry covenant captures the important details and basics that guide the ministry in that place. And the covenant guides the ministry of the church, not just the certified lay ministry. It's the whole congregation, including the assigned leadership. So the ministry covenant covers areas such as, 1, a short mission statement or description of the congregation and the purpose and role of having a CLM appointed there. 2, the congregation's ministry plan. 3, financial responsibilities to the CLM. Now, remember, they don't get a salary. Mm-hmm. So that would mean things like perhaps reimbursement for travel expenses. I think that's a permissible.
And some have stipends as well.
All right. And so there are some permissible financial provisions for CLMs, but not salary, not benefits. And then 4th, ministry assessment and evaluation. The CLM mentor might be the supervising pastor, or if there is not one available, then this would actually be the district superintendent, as I mentioned earlier, and is also noted in the Book of Discipline, where it states clearly that, quote, the layperson is accountable to the district superintendent or other ordained or licensed minister appointed to the charge, who will make provision for sacramental ministry and provide guidance and mentoring to the layperson assigned, end of quote. The CLM mentor is responsible for the pastoral charge in which CLM serve. The CLM mentor is responsible. If there is no other supervising clergy person, that's the district superintendent. The mentor equips for ministry, that is, participates in the training and formation, development of the CLM, and also presides over the sacraments and ensures provision of sacraments for the congregation. And that would include not only the sacraments of baptism, Holy Communion, but also any other rites and functions under the heading of ordering of the church according to the discipline. That includes such work as reception of new members, presiding over the nominations committee, those sorts of things, weddings and the like. As a CLM is part of a ministry team, the provision of sacraments is to be cared for by the mentor or supervising elder. And finally, the mentor provides relational partnering and collaboration with the CLM, which is a refined way of saying you be with them in relationship so that they really know and trust you and know that they can turn to you for support in their ministry. The CLM mentor needs skills to build the relationship between the mentor and the CLM. If that's not the DS, you want to pick somebody who is going to take this ministry to heart of supervising and mentoring a CLM. The mentor is to participate in forming the covenant for ministry within the congregation with the CLM and the whole mutual ministry team. It's a team effort. The mentor is also to maintain a collaborative relationship with the DS for mission and ministry through the CLM and mutual ministry team. If the mentor is the DS, then that collaborative relationship would be between the DS, the CLM, and the whole team. Back to you, Jodi, and thank you.
Thank you. Well, all of these roles serve up to build the ministry of the laity as they respond to the call of God on their lives through certified lay ministry. A healthy partnership between clergy and laity, recognizing each other's call to ministry, will serve to create a system of healthy and vital congregations. The potential for certified lay ministry is enormous. The impact possible by equipping and empowering laity to be in ministry is exponential. When you partner clergy and laity, you are most definitely moving towards creating congregations which are healthy and vital. And essentially, it's really all about healthy congregations. A congregation of Christians is not a community gathered around a minister, but actually a community of many ministries called to share in the ministry of Jesus Christ to the world, the Missio Dei. During this time, we're going to have a conversation with our guests, Kevin Kloster, and we have Myron here as well, who's from General Board of Higher Education and Ministry. And as you think of questions, I hope that you will please post them in the Q&A panel so that Jason can forward them to us for response. Or if you have comments, I know we have a bishop on the line, and if you would like to add your voice to some of these questions and conversations, you're most welcome to do so. And in the meantime, though, I have a few questions for our presenters today. So this one is open to either Kevin or Myron. Whoever else from our audience would like to have some input.
We're all experts here today.
Yeah, we're all experts today. So, as you look at the larger picture of partnership ministry, what are the critical factors for informing and maintaining an effective ministry team? Question again is, as you look at the larger picture of partnership ministry, what are the critical factors for informing and maintaining an effective ministry team?
I've had my voice. I'd at least like to give Kevin an opportunity to respond first. Kevin, do you want to chime in there?
Go right ahead. I'll follow up.
You want me to? Okay. Well, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is leadership. That this really needs to be a proactive effort especially on the part of the district superintendent, and then by extension, the mentor who is assigned by the district superintendent, to make sure that they really do care for and foster an effective ministry with the CLM. And so, if I were to name one thing, that's what I would say is it's not just an easy go-to that you hand off and then move on, but that it's something that really is an opportunity, it provides an opportunity for developing the lay ministry of the church. And so I think that would be what I'd say the critical factor is really making sure that the DS pays attention to for the duration of the assignment of the CLM.
Yeah, good words, Myron. The other piece that I think I would add is in terms not just the mentoring and the DS kind of being there through that process, but also a strong mutual ministry team that's able to provide quick feedback, that's able to be honest and to help that CLM develop a plan to move forward, and then also to be there to be supportive and help in the assessment. I think they have a critical role and perhaps more of that evaluation and assessment piece that's really helpful as a DS to hear what they have to say about how that CLM is performing.
Excellent. Thank you. So as you compare lay supply and certified lay ministry, this is for both of you, what do you think are some of the features and benefits of each of those?
I can jump in here, Myron, and then you can piggyback if you want on this one. I really think some of the differences between the lay supply and the certified lay minister are around that one slide that was popped up earlier, in that lay supply does not have a great deal of training, nor is there a great deal of support, nor is there a great deal of accountability or supervision. I mean, pretty much anybody can step forward and jump in as lay supply. And the real difference that I see with CLMs and why I'm more likely to to use a CLM than lay supply is simply they have that greater structure around them to succeed.
Thank you. Kevin?
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. I'm all about accountability, and I think that and not looking over your shoulder, but looking over you in love to help you be your best, and as a supportive presence. And so that's one of the things that I really see as a strength of it. And then also, of course, General Board of Higher Education and Ministry, we're concerned about education and formation. And I was serving as a district superintendent when we adapted to this new addition to the Book of Discipline in the California Pacific Annual Conference. And so it was paid real close attention to the resources as they unfolded and as the first CLMs went through the process in our conference and in our district. And I was really impressed with the depth and quality of education provided through the training. If you go through the training, the formal training for a CLM, it's really excellent. And so that's the other advantage I see is and by formation, not just reading and learning information, but also the interaction with other CLMs, other people who are on the same journey, that helps people explore and discern their call to leadership in that role.
Mm-hmm. And then as you look at lay supply versus CLM, what are some of the risks that you see involved in that, of each of those, as you compare them?
I'd say the same thing. The accountability structure is stronger with the CLM, and so therefore there are fewer liabilities. At least that's my perception, and I think that's what I've observed in practice too.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
I'd be with Myron on that one. Yep.
Okay. Well, actually, we have a couple of audience questions. I'm going to pause here, and Jason, would you like to bring those forward to us, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Our first question is from Mark, and he asked if you could restate the difference between a CLM mentor and the supervising clergy person.
For Myron, you said Mark. We don't have a Mark here.
No, the question was from Mark, and it's to anyone who'd care to respond.
From Mark. Okay,
yeah.
Got it.
Actually, we've been revising some of the CLM modules, and in the old version, those were two different people. But because if we look at the number of people that can be engaged as part of that team, it really made a lot of sense to have the supervising clergy person also be the mentor for that person, particularly since the supervising clergy person has the responsibility for that charge. And so if you have a ministry team, then you should be mentoring whoever's in that ministry team. So that's a natural connection, and so those should be the same person. I hope that answers the question adequately.
And so if I understand you correctly, what you're saying then, in those circumstances where the DS is unable or just doesn't need to or doesn't want to assign an elder to oversee this person, then the DS plays mentor. I'm sorry, the other term.
The mentor capacity?
The mentor capacity within the supervising minister and the DS. You're playing all three roles.
Mm-hmm. And there might be some cases where the DS is so busy that they're not able to provide that mentoring role, but yet has the overall responsibility of that charge. Well, they may assign another mentor. But there needs to be that system in place is the big thing. And it just is smoother if it is considered like a ministry team and that the supervising clergy person does the mentoring. Okay. Another question?
Yes, our next question is from Greg, and he asks, are CLMs at risk at General Conference? I believe the ministry study raised questions and concerns about having a level of, quote, super laity that minimizes the lay ministry of all baptized Christians.
Okay, if you look at the study of ministry proposal, we were actually in a lot of conversation with the study of ministry over certified lay ministry. And in the proposal that they have, they are supporting the legislation that's coming from discipleship ministries. And included in the legislation from discipleship ministries is a new paragraph 268, which rewrites the old paragraph 271 on certified lay ministry. So it's a total rewrite, but it is a vital piece of the ministry that we have. The study of ministry only made some slight changes, and that had to do with who was doing the interviewing and recommending, and they put in an or District Committee on Lay Servant Ministries rather than just only the District Committee on Ordained Ministry. That's the only change that the study of ministry is making to the Certified Lay Ministry program. So I want to assure everybody out there that we are well and good, and in this general conference, hopefully everything moves through smoothly, and we'll have a new paragraph 268 that more clearly outlines the process for Certified Lay Ministry. Okay, do you have other questions from the audience, or we'll move on?
Sure do. We have a ton. Jim asks, where does the CLM get his or her training?
It can happen in a number of places. That's really up to the annual conference. In some annual conferences, you can get that through a licensing and lay ministry school. Because the modules are so similar to what happens in licensing school, that's a very acceptable form of training. It also builds a lot of collegiality among the clergy and the laity as they move forward in ministry together. There are some conferences, not all conferences, but there are some conferences that allow for online training. And through beadisciple.com, there are training modules 1 through 4 that are being offered, and I'm going to say it's Eastern Pennsylvania, or I can't remember for sure, but one of them is sponsoring that. But your annual conference can utilize those online training modules. Some conferences use a lay academy and provide for these modules. There are other places where it's a very small program, and many times the DS walks through the modules with the person that's doing the training. All of the modules 1 through 4, are available through the Upper Room Bookstore, and those can be reproduced within an annual conference, but right now they're a cost of $25 per module, but you can find them there on the Upper Room Bookstore and use them to how best works in your context. So that's one thing you have to do, is really look at what your context is and what is going to help move you forward in the development and training of Certified Lay Ministry. I would be your go-to person for questions regarding any of that training, and you'll see my contact information a little bit later.
And I was going to ask, have you, Jodi, found that the Board of Laity within annual conferences has been a strong resource to help support the training?
In some cases.
Yeah.
In some cases,
yeah.
Particularly in the places where the Board of Laity functions well.
Yeah.
Then they'll be engaged with making sure that there are really excellent trainings available for the laity within the conference.
So if you're not sure what's happening in your annual conference, that might be one place to check, is with your Board of Laity.
Right. And in some cases, it's a Director of Leadership Development that will oversee both lay ministry and ordained ministry. Or there might be a registrar, even for Certified Lay Ministry. So it varies so widely from conference to conference. And that's one of the reasons that we're moving forward with Discipleship Ministries, is in rewriting the paragraph, because there needs to be more consistency from conference to conference. And that's part of the reason for these webinars, too, is to help us all get on the same page. So, yes, we have some flexibility from conference to conference, but yet there needs to be something that cements it all together.
Indeed.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead with another question, and you can continue to add comments or questions in the Q&A panel. So, Kevin and Myron, what difference do you see with the liability issues with the CLM, between the CLM and the lay supply for the annual conference? What about liability issues?
Well, I think in some ways we addressed those in the earlier questions, but the many liabilities, if you follow the mutual ministry team set up and operation the way we've described it here in this webinar, then you'll basically eliminate many of the liabilities that might accompany lay supply appointment. So I think really it's the concerns. I guess I'm getting to another question, so I'll stick with that. I'll leave
Okay.
Leave it for Kevin. Maybe you have more to say, and maybe not.
Okay, Kevin, we'll wait on you on this one, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to the. Oh, you're here. You're here. Would you like to address that?
Jump ahead.
Okay. So earlier on this webinar, we talked a little bit about drivers for church vitality. So how do you all see the Certified Lay Ministry program as one of the drivers, particularly in light of the Towers-Watson report that we referred to earlier on in the webinar?
You know, I think one of the things that we saw in the Towers-Watson report is that the increased participation of laity leads towards greater health in a congregation. I think the numbers were, 25 to 50% lay involvement lead to a stronger, healthier congregation. So for me, I just think CLMs can model to the rest of the congregation that laity are to be engaged and to be servants in the church, and that when more and more people become involved, the congregation becomes stronger and healthier in its missional impact.
Excellent. Thank you. And what concerns do you have with the Certified Lay Ministry program, and what would alleviate those concerns as it is now?
Well, I hear this anecdotally from different district superintendents that just the pressure to find leadership in different conferences sometimes leads to cutting corners and just getting somebody in there, and that I would hope that they wouldn't do that for the sake of primarily the CLM and the congregation that CLM is being asked to serve, so that all of them really feel equipped and supported to do well, rather than just left out there to do the best they can on their own, and also just not really following through on all of the educational and formation opportunities and requirements as they're laid out in the CLM program. And part of my concern is based on another thing we've seen in other parts of the appointment system, which is that we know out there that there are licensed local pastors who are being assigned to various settings, but who really are not being required to follow up on the regular educational requirements, and that's a breakdown in the system of accountability that includes primarily district superintendents and district committees on ordained ministry. And if they're not holding those persons accountable to that, then they are putting those persons and the congregations they serve in some potential liability for the strength of the ministries in those places. And the same, if it's happening at that level with licensed local pastors, I can't imagine that it's not also happening with CLMs. So people are being assigned to certain places without sufficient oversight and accountability.
You have anything to add to that, Kevin?
We're good.
Oh, good. Okay.
Jodi, let me chime in here because we've had a few folks ask for points of clarification about can you speak more specifically about what you mean when you say liabilities?
Okay, for example, if there is, let's take one out. What if there's misconduct? And this person has not had adequate, say, sanctuaries training, boundaries training, or maybe not even a psychological assessment. What does that set up for the annual conference as far as liability? You know, if you have a life supply person that's just a body put in there, but they're actually operating in the role of a pastor, that opens up a wide fountain of liability possibilities, you know, and if the annual conference doesn't do diligence in screening, training, equipping, then it holds the annual conference liable. I guess that's the extreme case.
Yeah,
that's extreme case.
Yeah. So that's a good example, and that's what I mean. And then there are all sorts of other less scandalous, but also potentially deeply damaging possibilities to congregations from someone who's being put into a place without proper screening, without the proper support to be a responsible and capable leader. And then it can actually do more damage than good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great place here to chime in with this follow-up question from Durwood, who asks, does each conference decide the necessary process for application, and specifically regarding background checks and psychological testing?
Yes, that is correct, because there are different requirements in each annual conference. So that is best laid for the responsibility of the annual conference to do that. Like, for example, if there are people that are serving in camp and retreat ministries that have, maybe they have to participate in centralized background checks, or and the expense also is another piece, is that at what point Do you do psychological assessment? Do you do that after they've been assigned? Do you do it before they've been assigned? Who pays for it? And so it's really important to leave that piece within the hands of the annual conference to best handle how they feel would be most fitting to their context.
Walter asks, are CLMs direct hires by the local church?
Not hires.
Well, if they are on staff in a local church, whether they're in a pastoral capacity as part of a ministry team, or if they're serving as a church administrator, or whatever kind of role, congregational care minister, if they are being compensated in some way, they are compensated as a lay person. They do not meet the rules of the IRS to be considered a clergy person. And so that means that if there is payment of any kind, even like when you have a church janitor, they are subject to self-employment taxes. And so the church has a responsibility to make sure that those things are paid for those. If they're hired on staff in a church, then they have to be treated as a staff person, as a lay staff person, and have appropriate withholding taken.
And the other side of your question, I think, is clarification that the discipline is real clear that they have no claim on salary or benefit.
Not as a clergy person.
Salary or benefits.
Yeah, as a
under the
clergy person.
usual categories of clergy or licensed local pastor.
Correct. Very good. Thanks for pointing that out. Because they don't have no entitlement to pension and all that stuff.
Right.
That's part of the clergy person package.
All right, Wayne asks our next questions. Mentors, do they have to be an elder?
No, they can also be a licensed local pastor. But they should be a clergy person. And that might be even, a provisional member as well, because they are really serving as a licensed local pastor until they're ordained. So that is acceptable, yes. Okay, so Kevin, I hope you're still there. So you're kind of far away from us, but we're together electronically here. So you're not only a DS, right? But you are also on the ground floor of building TAF 1. So what possibilities do you see with having CLMs with a specialization as a lay missionary or church planter?
Oh.
Would you like me to ask that again?
Nope, I got it. Good question.
Okay.
Good question. Well, so let me do a little backstory on this one, and to let everybody know that I was the founding pastor of a church that was actually started by lay people. They had this vision of a United Methodist Church in their own community, and they were going to wait for anybody to come along to help get it started. So they took out an ad in a paper and invited people to join them on a Sunday at a local restaurant. And a group of people gathered, and it took off after that. And while they did great things to get that congregation sort of up and running and gathering people, I had to undo some of what they had done because they lacked some of the knowledge of planting principles. And so I think having lay people that are trained in church planting, it's essential. I mean, I can see lay missionaries, church planters out in the field gathering people. Better yet, I see them working in tandem with the church planter who's already been assessed and equipped and can lead that church forward. I mean, I just got to think of the synergy of a lay person and a pastor working together to start a new congregation. To me, that seems pretty exciting. I can also see CLMs with a specialty in church planting working in some rural areas where we've seen some recent growth, where they can be out engaging to start new ministries, new services, perhaps even new congregations. The one concern that I have, and I don't know that I have the answer for it, and perhaps you do around church planting and CLMs, is the assessment piece. I mean, we've really learned that when it comes to church planting, that assessing pastors is critical. And I don't know if we've given much thought or if what that role is for assessing CLMs to make sure that they are the right fit for helping to start new congregations. But other than that, I would certainly use a CLM in church planting as long as they assessed well with the congregation the community that we want to develop something new in.
Mm-hmm. Well, good point, Kevin. And I believe, and I'll bring that up again with Path 1 New Church Starts, is that in that lay missionary church planter portion of the training, that assessment be part of that. So, and they are the ones that will provide the certification that they have completed what is necessary and they are fit and ready to go, to be a lay missionary church planter. So that's a really good point. So we'll make sure that we follow up to make sure that that is part of that training. Thank you. So, as you're also a district superintendent, so how can utilizing a CLM impact what you do?
I think at one level, what it does is it widens the bench that we have for assignment making. I think Myron talked earlier that there are many conferences now who are short on pastors, and we see CLMs as a place that we can reach to provide adequate pastoral sort of leadership, and that's the one place that I can think that it really does help us out. But I also want to affirm what Myron said earlier in that I don't think we just want to take a CLM and send them out in the middle of nowhere and just plant them someplace. I think they need to be a missional fit. They need to be the right person in the right place to help that congregation move forward.
Okay, thank you. And so how might the use of CLMs ease the financial burden on local churches in your district?
I think in terms of a financial burden, particularly in smaller rural setting churches, it makes having a leader much more financially feasible. CLMs, I think, are in a position where they can be bivocational. We have one serving near where I live that holds a full-time job and then serves as a part-time pastor. Serves as the CLM on the weekend and actually leads a congregation and of about 25 people and is doing a great job. So I think it can greatly ease the financial burden in smaller congregations.
Okay. Thank you. And so, we've talked a little bit about specialized ministries and all too. So how do you envision using certified lay ministers for mission and ministry in your district beyond that of even the lay missionary and church planter?
Let me offer two ideas on this. I think first, at least in my district and perhaps in others, we have smaller churches, rural churches, that have significant building problems. They're aging as a building, and we're actually working right now with one of our CLMs in my district who's going to form, his job is actually in the area of construction and feels called to help churches around construction needs. And so as a CLM, he's putting together a plan where he will go out to develop a team of people who will serve sort of as volunteer construction workers. And they will go into local churches where there's a need. And if that local church can come up with sort of the materials, they'll provide labor. So I think that's one way that a CLM can be engaged at a district level to help churches within the district. It's kind of a creative way, I think, of meeting a need. I think second, and I'm speaking just primarily about my district, is that if we had a CLM who was really passionate about mission and would be able to kind of lead the district in exposing people to other cultures, I could see using a CLM to develop mission trips for the district whereby people can go and serve either in-state, out-of-state, another country. I think many congregations lack the leadership to make it happen on their own, but if we were able to come alongside with a CLM who has some training in this area, they could open the doors for more people to experience missional opportunities. So there's a couple.
Great. That's great. Those are really great ideas, I think. Thank you. I'm going to ask Myron this question. Some conferences are concerned about the extra load on the district superintendent and the DCOM. Okay, so do you have any creative suggestion that you might have that will alleviate that concern?
And I don't know how creative it is. It's more observing what's already happening out in the field, and that is my observation is that district committees on ordained ministry and the involvement of the DS has a broad range of arrangements, and from the smaller district committee and a deeply directly involved DS to very large districts, very large DCMs, and district superintendents who actually hand some of their responsibilities off to a designated elder who does that in their stead, does that work in their stead, and attends the DCOM and the DS doesn't. I don't advise that. I'm just saying this is what I see from the field. But it does suggest that some of the creative possibilities include assigning a particular elder in the district superintendent to oversee that area of ministry for the district, and to form maybe a subcommittee of the district committee on ordained ministry to help do the work that we've outlined earlier is the district committee's responsibility with and for CLMs. So, consult with other DSs around as you do your work and see how they're doing it. And again, it's nice for a conference to have, at least for the cabinet, to have a common plan for how they're going to address this. Because when they don't, some of the things that you can bet that the CLMs are talking to each other, that the laity are talking to each other, and it will encourage frustration if they don't see an apples to apples process around their conference, as much as that's possible. And that just a note on something you were saying earlier, Kevin, is as you were citing the examples of how you've seen CLMs creatively deployed in your area, two of those examples matched almost identically with some of the things that I've seen in Southern California when I served in the San Diego district. The way various CLMs use their special gifts and met that with a particular need in their area. The big Katrina rebuild projects that we did, for instance, were headed by a CLM, organized by a CLM in our district, and it was directly related to her passion for that kind of ministry.
Yeah, excellent.
Well, the CLM with a specialization really is much like the relationship between a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. So a CLM completes a foundational training and then can go on to further training around a particular specialty. So Myron and Kevin, it would be interesting to hear your reaction on specialized ministry for CLMs, and what could these specialties such as parish nursing, lay missionary church planter, lay missioner congregational care, small group leadership, ethnic ministries, etc., mean to the life of an annual conference?
The first thing that comes to my mind that I would really like to see our denomination focus more on is what's happening with the National Hispanic Plan and the way that they have been using this model of cultivating lay leadership for some time, and tying that with starting congregations, starting communities of faith. So if I was going to pick one, I'd say that rises to the top for me.
Yeah, good point. The other piece that I think is would be really helpful is in the area of congregational care. A lot of our pastors spend a great deal of time doing congregational care, and that really, I think, could free them up to be focusing on more strategic things if they had somebody that was running congregational care for them, and a CLM is a great place to do that.
I know one annual conference where that's done in our district of an annual conference that has been done very effectively. There was a lot of transition from pastor to pastor, but there was a CLM that had a special, they were trained to do congregational care ministry, and they were the continuity, that was there all through all the transitions, and so it became a very vital piece to that local congregation. Well, Myron, in regards to the National Plan for Hispanic and Latino Ministries, how do you see this increased system of accountability and relationship with the annual conference benefiting both the lay missioner and the district or annual conference?
Well, partly because it is already a plan that's been working, and there is a network of support for it already in place, and I think it's underused. So I just see it as, again, the system of accountability that accompanies the CLM process in general, together with the National Hispanic Plan and the excellent examples for how that has materialized in various places. I think all that together it's one of those places where we can look for what's going well, what's growing. and something that's vital and an example to follow.
Okay.
That's my impression,
Mm-hmm.
and my experience in some cases.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting with the conversations with the National Plan and for Hispanic and Latino ministries, and with working with GBHEM and with discipleship ministries, that it's really a win-win to have this partnership. And I think for our annual conferences as well, because then like you said, you have that system of accountability in place that wasn't in place with solely just the lay missioner program, and the connection to the district also, because then the lay missioner will be coming and meeting with the district committee on ordained ministry and will be assigned by a district superintendent, so that you can see there's a much stronger connection. Kevin, how would you feel about assigning a CLM, knowing that they have gone through this process and have attained additional skills in a specialization? How would you feel about assigning them then?
You know, I think it was Myron that said, you know, my job as a DS, the Book of Discipline says, is to be the chief missional strategist and to make sure that we get the right people in the right place, moving in the right direction. So I think having CLMs who have been trained and specialized in a very particular area of service can be invaluable. In some settings, I can see them being the doers, you know, getting the ministry done. In other settings, I see them as being the trainers, the equippers, who are empowering people so that multiplication of leadership happens. So yeah, I'm really comfortable assigning CLMs. I've got them right here in my district. In fact, a CLM with specialized training in health ministries or congregational care or small group development. I don't have any of those happening right now, and I'd love to see something like that happen within some of our local churches. I think it would free up our pastors to be more strategic, and some of that stuff really is the work of laity. And so, yeah, definitely am excited about the possibilities in the future. Are using CLMs right now, and will continue to use them.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And we're going to wind up our webinar for now. And if you have any further questions, feel free to go ahead and put them in the Q&A panel, and we will address them directly through email. But for now, I just want to point you to resources that are available to you. Of course, you're going to have the Book of Discipline. And then there's also, from the General Board of Higher Education, a book on principles and guides for annual conferences, and the Readiness to Effectiveness or Toolkit for annual conferences put out by GBHEM. And then Jason's going to send you off to a link on discipleship ministries for resources on certified lay ministry. And so that chart will be there, the brochure on certified lay ministry will be there, and some info sheets on the specializations. I would like to thank our guests for being a part of this today. I really, really appreciate your input. It was excellent. And we'll call it a day and hope to meet back with you again at some other point in this journey. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jodi. Thank you, Kevin.
Hey, thank you, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you all very much for your participation in this webinar. As a reminder, once you close this WebEx application, you'll be automatically redirected to some resources. A few of you folks have asked in the Q&A panel, how do you get a copy of this webinar? We'll have that ready within 48 hours, and that'll be up on UMC Cyber Campus, as well as through Discipleship Ministries/webinars. So that does it for us today. Thank you all very much for your participation. We hope this has been informative for you, and we wish you a great rest of your day.